attending to children who are grieving can be a little bit tricky because we're also grieving ourselves. So we know that kids experience grief the same as we do, right? But there's a couple of reasons why sometimes their grief doesn't actually get picked up on. And we really want to make sure that we catch kids' grief because they're still developing. And we want to make sure that they are able to process their losses and integrate them so that we don't see symptoms popping up later in adulthood, right? We don't want them burying it and then learning all these kinds of maladaptive ways of managing it. And you know what that is. That's the isolating themselves or distracting ourselves through overwork or picking fights when we're upset, substances, this kind of thing. These are the things that we do, right? Okay. Now, for most of us, I think that, attending to children who are grieving can be a little bit tricky because we're also grieving ourselves, right? So there's a couple of things I think that we can kind of take away that will help us sort of be able to manage our own grief, but also focus on the kids and see how they're doing. It shows up in different ways for kids than adults. And I think this is often because they don't have the same language to express it, and they don't always have the awareness. So we really have to pay attention because some of those behaviors will be similar or different to ours. Now with younger kids, we're noticing things like headaches and stomach aches. Sometimes grief is somatized and it shows up in the body. Another thing that we're noticing is changes in their routines. Sleeping more or less, not playing as much, not eating during the day and then maybe eating a lot at night, things like this. Sometimes we keep ourselves distracted during the day and then sadness and things comes in at night. A big one with kids that's quite common is regression. So you're asking yourself questions here like, have they started playing with toys that they used to play with a couple years ago? Are they talking in baby talk? Is there a fear of dark that has returned? We might notice as well that younger kids may be a little bit more clingy or hard to settle. Sometimes kids may start overprotecting siblings. Alternatively, they may get aggressive with peers or siblings. Essentially what you're seeing here is that they may start being excessively good or a little bit more bad than typical, right? A little oppositional. So I think that sometimes when kids lose a parent, for example, they can feel jealous of kids whose family haven't changed in that way. And sometimes that results in maybe aggressive behavior towards peers. Now, another common one is getting lost in screen activities, excessive video game usage, social media, on TikTok all the time. And here I think what we also notice is that when we sort of try to take the devices away, it's not usually met well. Are they just not enjoying things the way that they used to? Do they not get excited about stuff the way they used to? Sometimes we see it in performance at school, right? It might go down or they might be distractible. A lot of kids will develop health anxieties, particularly if they've seen someone be sick. So they might be afraid of getting sick. They might have overreactions to small injuries, things like this. They might become watchful and afraid that other people might die, this kind of thing. Sometimes we'll see kids monitoring when family members leave home and come home. That can be a sign of grief. Okay. Now, the important thing to remember, though, is that, we don't just grieve people. We also grieve other things, and sometimes things around transitions. So we want to acknowledge those pretty quickly, too. And that could be things like a divorce, moving home, changing schools, losing a friend group, stuff like this. So those are the things we're looking out for. Next time we'll talk about good ways of supporting our kids through grief.